Have you ever felt the heavy weight of holding on to someone or something that no longer belongs in your life? That quiet ache that lives in the background of your days, draining your energy, stealing your peace, and keeping you from moving forward. You know deep down that the chapter has ended, yet some part of you resists turning the page. It's not weakness, it's not failure, it's human nature. We cling because we hope, we fear, and we believe that without what we've lost, we might not be whole again. But what if the truth is the opposite? What if letting go is not losing, but finding? The human heart is wired to attach. We hold on to relationships, habits, and even painful memories because they create a sense of safety. Familiarity, even when it hurts, can feel easier than the unknown. This is why it feels so hard to release the people and situations that no longer serve us. Your mind whispers, what if I need them? What if I regret this? What if I'm not strong enough alone? But pause for a moment and ask yourself, how many opportunities have you missed because your hands were too full of the past to receive the future? How much peace have you traded just to keep carrying what's already gone? Letting go is not about rejecting the past, it's about respecting it. It's about saying, thank you for the lessons, the love, the laughter, and even the pain, and then choosing to step forward unchained. You cannot move toward inner peace while still dragging the weight of yesterday. Imagine walking into a new life carrying a backpack filled with stones. Every step is harder. Every breath is heavier. Yet the moment you release that burden, you feel light, free, alive again. That freedom is waiting for you the moment you decide that your peace matters more than your fear of change. This journey is not easy, but it is worth everything, because when you finally let go, you discover something powerful, your strength. You see that you are not defined by who stayed or who left, by what you gained or what you lost. You are defined by your courage to move forward despite it all. And that courage becomes a light, guiding you through the darkness of doubt into a space where clarity and calm live. Stay with me, because as we move through this message together, you will uncover the tools, the wisdom, and the psychology that make letting go possible, not in a distant theoretical way, but in a way that you can feel deep in your chest and apply in your life right now. The reward is not just peace, it is power. The power to stand in your truth without being chained to old pain. The power to choose your future without being haunted by your past. The power to finally breathe and feel alive again. So if you are tired of holding on, if you're ready to reclaim your strength and open the door to a new chapter, stay. Because in the words ahead lies the key you have been searching for. The key to inner peace. The key to freedom. The key to yourself. What are you still holding on to that you know deep down is hurting you? A person who walked away, a situation that ended, a dream that no longer fits who you are becoming. We all carry pieces of the past like invisible chains, believing that by clinging tightly we can somehow protect ourselves from pain. But the truth is the opposite. The tighter you hold on, the heavier it becomes until it quietly robs you of your joy, your energy, and your hope for the future. And yet, there is a part of you that resists letting go. That part whispers, what if I lose myself without them? What if I never find something better? What if this pain is all I have left? You are not weak for feeling this way. You are human. The mind is wired to attach. It craves familiarity, even when that familiarity burns. It tells you that comfort is found in repetition, even if that repetition keeps you trapped in suffering. That's why it feels so hard to let go. Your brain and your heart are trying to protect you, but in doing so, they keep you from experiencing the very thing you crave most, peace. Think about it. How many nights have you lost to replaying conversations that can't be changed? How many mornings have you woken up with a heaviness you didn't ask for, but still carried because it felt impossible to put it down? Letting go doesn't mean erasing your past. It doesn't mean pretending the people or situations that shaped you never existed. It means honoring them, learning from them, and then releasing them so you can finally breathe again. It's the act of saying, I value my peace more than I fear change. Imagine walking forward, both hands gripping tightly to yesterday. You have no space left to reach for tomorrow. But the moment you release that grip, your hands are free to welcome new beginnings, new strength, new joy. This is the core of inner peace, choosing freedom over fear. And the reward for choosing it is powerful. When you let go, you reclaim your energy. You stop pouring it into what has already ended and start investing it into who you are becoming. You find clarity because the noise of regret and the echo of what-ifs finally fade. You rediscover your worth because no person and no circumstance gets to define you more than you define yourself. And perhaps most importantly, you realize that peace isn't something you chase, it's something you create by releasing what weighs you down. Stay with me, because as we go deeper into this journey, I will show you how to let go in a way that feels real and possible. Not just as a nice idea, but as a daily practice that will transform the way you feel about yourself and your life. By the end, you will not only understand why letting go is necessary, you will feel ready to do it. The reward waiting for you is more than relief, it is freedom. Freedom to step into a future without chains, freedom to breathe without heaviness, freedom to finally live as the person you were always meant to be. And that freedom begins the moment you decide your peace is worth it. The reason so many people struggle to release what hurts them is because the mind creates an illusion of safety around what is familiar. Your brain tells you that holding on is survival, even if it slowly destroys your peace. This is how patterns of attachment form, cycles of thought and emotion that keep you tied to people and situations long after they've served their purpose. Psychology calls this the comfort of the known. It doesn't matter if the known is painful, it matters that it feels predictable, and predictability is what your mind mistakes for security. But real security does not come from clinging. Real security comes from trust. Trust in yourself, trust in your strength, and trust that life always creates new paths once you have the courage to release the old ones. Every time you replay a memory, every time you imagine how things could have been, your brain rewards you with a false sense of control. It feels like if you think about it enough, maybe you can fix it, maybe you can rewrite it. But the truth is, you cannot heal by rewinding. You heal by moving forward. Your energy is a limited resource, and every ounce spent on the past is energy stolen from your future. Imagine pouring water into a broken cup. No matter how much you give, it will never stay full. That is what it feels like to keep investing in something that is already gone. You are not meant to endlessly pour yourself out. You are meant to grow, to flourish, to overflow into new chapters. Letting go is not rejection, it is redirection. It is the act of telling yourself, my story is not finished, and I refuse to stay stuck in one page. This is not about forgetting. It is about rewriting the meaning. You cannot change the fact that certain people left or that certain situations ended, but you can change the story you tell yourself about what that means. Instead of I lost, you can say I learned. Instead of I am broken, you can say I am becoming. This shift in perspective is powerful because once you rewrite the meaning, you rewrite your future. There is a deep strength inside you that only reveals itself when you choose release over resistance. Think of the moments in your life when you thought you couldn't survive something, yet here you are, still breathing, still standing. That strength didn't come from holding tighter. It came from eventually letting go and allowing yourself to adapt, to rebuild, to heal. This strength is still within you now, waiting for you to trust it again. The emotional reward of this choice is profound. When you free yourself from what no longer serves you, you begin to experience peace not as a distant dream, but as a daily reality. You notice that your shoulders feel lighter, your thoughts clearer, your heart calmer. You discover joy in small moments that you couldn't feel before because your attention was consumed by the past. You begin to feel alive in ways you thought you had lost forever. And the more you experience this, the more you realize that letting go is not an ending. It is a return to yourself, to your power, to your freedom. This is the transformation that awaits you when you decide that your future deserves more than the weight of yesterday. And the moment you choose it, you begin to open the door to a life that feels lighter, freer, and more aligned with the person you were always meant to be. Peace begins the moment you understand that you are not obligated to carry everything you once held. You are not required to keep every relationship alive, to stay in every environment that drains you, or to replay every memory until it consumes you. Somewhere along the way, you may have been taught that loyalty means never letting go, that love means endless sacrifice, that endurance means tolerating what breaks you. But real love, real loyalty, real endurance do not ask you to destroy yourself. They ask you to honor yourself. They ask you to recognize when something has run its course and to find the courage to step into the unknown. This shift requires honesty. It asks you to face the truth that not everything or everyone is meant to walk with you into the future. And that is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign of growth. Trees shed their leaves every season, not because they hate them, but because holding on would prevent new life from growing. In the same way, your life demands that you release what is no longer aligned, so that new strength, new opportunities, and new connections can take root. The psychology of renewal is clear. Release creates space. Without space, nothing new can enter. Without space, you cannot expand. Your mind might resist this truth, whispering that letting go means losing, that moving on means failure. But what if the opposite is true? What if letting go is the ultimate form of winning, because it means you chose yourself? It means you chose peace over chaos, growth over stagnation, courage over fear. Think about the times you stayed in something far longer than you should have. What did it cost you? Your energy, your confidence, your joy. Those are the real losses, and they are far greater than losing the attachment you fear releasing. The human brain craves control, and that is why it clings. It thinks, if I just hold tighter, maybe I can change the outcome. But control is an illusion. You cannot control how people treat you. You cannot control whether a season ends. You cannot control when life moves you in a new direction. The only thing you can truly control is what you choose to carry. And the moment you realize this, you unlock your power, because your peace is not in their hands, it is in yours. Imagine waking up tomorrow with no resentment in your chest, no old story weighing on your heart, no endless cycle of what-ifs looping in your mind. Imagine the lightness of breathing without chains. That is not a dream. That is the reality waiting for you when you finally decide to release. You cannot create this freedom by accident. It only comes when you make the conscious choice to say, I deserve to be free. And when you say it with conviction, everything begins to change. The reward is not only emotional, it is physical. Science shows that carrying emotional burdens increases stress hormones, weakens the immune system, and drains the body's energy. Letting go is not just good for your heart, it is good for your health, your clarity, your very ability to live fully. You are not just healing your mind when you release, you are healing your whole being. This is why letting go is not optional if you want peace. It is essential, and every step you take toward release is a step toward reclaiming yourself, your power, and the future you are meant to create. Freedom begins the moment you stop confusing attachment with love. True love empowers, uplifts, and expands you. Attachment suffocates, traps, and convinces you that without it, you are nothing. The human heart longs for connection, but when connection turns into dependency, it becomes a chain disguised as comfort. You were not created to live in chains. You were created to grow, to evolve, to keep discovering new dimensions of yourself. Holding on to what limits you is not loyalty, it is self-abandonment. And you deserve more than abandoning yourself for the sake of holding on to someone or something that cannot walk with you into your highest future. Your subconscious holds on because it fears emptiness. It whispers that if you let go, you will be left with nothing. But emptiness is not the enemy. Emptiness is possibility. Emptiness is the fertile soil where new beginnings take root. The space that once felt terrifying becomes the very space where healing, peace, and unexpected blessings arrive. Think of how the night sky looks most beautiful when it seems the most empty, scattered only with stars. That space is what allows the light to shine. In the same way, your inner space is where clarity, and peace can finally glow once you make room for them. Psychology shows that the brain resists endings because it interprets them as threats. Your nervous system reacts as though loss means danger. That's why you feel anxious when a relationship ends or restless when you step away from something familiar. But the truth is, endings are not dangers, they are beginnings. The discomfort is simply your system recalibrating, learning to stand in a new reality. If you can sit with that discomfort instead of running from it, you discover that it doesn't last forever. It softens, it transforms, and soon the fear you felt at first turns into relief, and that relief grows into strength. When you release what no longer serves you, you begin to see your own worth with fresh eyes. You realize that peace is not something others give you, it is something you create by choosing yourself. And the more you choose yourself, the stronger your confidence becomes. The heaviness of the past no longer defines you. Instead, your resilience, your courage, and your willingness to grow define you. That is the identity of someone who has found real power. The emotional reward of this transformation cannot be overstated. You will find that your thoughts become lighter, your sleep deeper, your decisions clearer. Opportunities that once passed you by begin to appear because you are no longer blinded by the fog of what you've been carrying. Relationships that align with your true self start to enter because you've finally created space for them. Even your sense of time shifts. You stop feeling stuck, and you start feeling alive again, as though life is moving forward with you instead of pulling you back. This is the gift of letting go. It is not loss but liberation. It is not emptiness but expansion. It is not weakness but strength. And once you taste that strength, once you feel that lightness in your spirit, you will never again mistake chains for love or fear for safety. You will know the difference. And with that knowledge, you will never allow yourself to settle for less than the peace, freedom, and wholeness that you are always meant to carry. Strength is not found in holding on until your hands bleed. Strength is found in opening those hands and trusting that what is meant for you will never require you to suffer endlessly to keep it. The fear of letting go often comes from believing that without what you cling to, you are incomplete. But the truth is, nothing outside of you has the power to complete you. You were whole before they arrived, and you will be whole after they leave. This is not about losing yourself. It is about returning to yourself, the version of you that existed before the pain, before the weight, before the chains. The mind plays tricks. When it feels threatened, it tells you that the loss is unbearable, that the void is too wide, that moving forward is impossible. But those are not truths. They are defense mechanisms. The mind is built to protect you, but it often does so by trapping you in what is familiar, even if that familiarity hurts. Recognizing this pattern is the first step toward freedom. Once you see the illusion, you can choose differently. You can choose to no longer confuse pain with love, endurance with strength, or fear with safety. Every human being has an inner threshold, a point at which the weight of holding on becomes too heavy to bear. Reaching that threshold is not failure, it is a signal. It is life's way of telling you that you are ready for something greater. You would not feel the ache to release if you weren't strong enough to step into the space that release creates. That restless feeling inside of you is not weakness. It is your soul calling you to rise higher, to stop shrinking yourself to fit into places that no longer match who you are. The reward for answering that call is clarity. Suddenly the fog begins to lift. The endless cycle of questioning, regretting, and replaying breaks apart. You start to see yourself with honesty, and in that honesty, you discover a new kind of strength. The strength that does not depend on anyone else. The strength that is not tied to approval, validation, or attachment. It is the strength of knowing your worth without needing proof from the outside. That strength is unshakable, and once you taste it, you never want to go back to living chained to someone else's choices. Letting go allows you to experience peace in its purest form. Peace is not the absence of struggle, it is the presence of acceptance. It is the ability to stand in the middle of change and still breathe calmly, knowing that nothing has the power to destroy the essence of who you are. When you let go, you reclaim that essence. You find that life begins to flow again, carrying you toward new experiences, new people, and new opportunities that align with your growth. What once felt like an ending reveals itself as a new beginning. This transformation is waiting for you the moment you decide that you no longer wish to live in chains. The moment you whisper to yourself, "I deserve peace," the shift begins. And once it begins, momentum builds. The more you release, the lighter you feel. The lighter you feel, the more you trust yourself. The more you trust yourself, the more you step into the life that was always meant to be yours, free, expansive, and unshakably whole. There comes a moment when you realize that the pain of holding on has become heavier than the fear of letting go. That moment is not the end of you. It is the rebirth of you. The very weight that once kept you chained becomes the proof of your endurance, the evidence that you have carried more than anyone should have to, and yet here you are, still breathing, still alive, still capable of choosing differently. This realization is powerful because it shifts the focus from what you are losing to what you are gaining. You are not walking away empty. You are walking away with wisdom, with strength, with clarity that could never have been formed without the struggle you've endured. The human spirit has an extraordinary ability to heal once given the chance. But healing requires space. Wounds cannot close if you keep tearing them open. Peace cannot flow in if every corner of your heart is crowded with regret, bitterness, or fear. This is why release is essential. It clears the space. It allows the wound to breathe, to mend, to transform from pain into wisdom. Psychology calls this cognitive reframing, the ability to see the same event in a new light. What once felt like abandonment becomes an invitation to grow. What once felt like rejection becomes redirection. What once felt like loss becomes the very soil in which resilience grows. Every time you let go of something not meant for you, you are telling life, "I am ready for more." And life responds to that declaration. You begin to notice doors opening where before there were only walls. You start to feel opportunities aligning with your courage, not your fear. People who resonate with your higher self begin to appear because your energy no longer attracts what was rooted in old wounds. The universe has a way of meeting you at the level of your willingness to release. The lighter you travel, the farther you go. This is why your decision today matters so deeply, because the longer you hold on to what hurts you, the longer you delay the peace and expansion that are waiting for you. The longer you clutch at what is gone, the more you keep yourself from what is coming. Letting go is not abandonment of the past, it is allegiance to the future. It is the ultimate act of self-respect, the declaration that your well-being matters more than familiar suffering. And that declaration echoes into every part of your life. The emotional reward is profound. Instead of waking with heaviness, you wake with possibility. Instead of replaying the same cycle of pain, you begin to create new patterns of growth. Instead of being defined by what slipped through your fingers, you're defined by what you now have the courage to hold: peace, clarity, and self-worth. That shift is not subtle. It changes everything. It changes the way you carry yourself, the choices you make, the relationships you attract, and the future you build. Letting go does not mean you stop caring. It means you stop allowing what is gone to control what is still alive within you. It means reclaiming the parts of yourself that got lost in the struggle and welcoming them home. And when you do, you discover that you were never truly incomplete. You are only carrying too much weight to recognize your own wholeness. That wholeness has been there all along, waiting for the moment you set yourself free. The truth is, every time you let go, you are not losing a part of yourself. You are shedding a layer that was never truly yours to begin with. You are releasing the illusions, the false attachments, the identities shaped by someone else's expectations or by circumstances that no longer align with your growth. What falls away is not your essence, but the weight that has kept your essence hidden. Beneath the pain, beneath the fear, beneath the clinging, there is a version of you that is unshakable, a version of you that does not beg for validation, does not shrink for acceptance, and does not compromise peace for the sake of familiarity. That version has been waiting for the moment you finally choose to step into freedom. The psychology of attachment teaches us that human beings cling not only to people but to patterns. If you have lived with struggle, chaos, or disappointment for long enough, a part of you begins to normalize it. It feels like home, even when it is destroying you. This is why release is such a radical act. It is not just about letting go of someone or something. It is about letting go of the identity you built around them. It is about telling yourself, I am not defined by what I survived. I am defined by how I rise. This shift is what allows you to break cycles that have kept you bound for years, sometimes even generations. What you choose to release today is not just for you. It is for the future version of you who deserves a life without those chains. It is for the person you are becoming, who cannot thrive while carrying the weight of yesterday. And when you choose to let go, you send a powerful signal to your subconscious. You are safe without the old attachments. You are safe to grow, safe to expand, safe to trust the unknown. This signal rewires the brain, reducing fear responses and increasing your capacity for joy. The act of release literally changes the way your mind and body experience the world. Imagine how different your life feels when the grip of the past no longer dictates your present. You wake up lighter. You feel energy flowing where before there was only exhaustion. You notice beauty in the ordinary because your mind is no longer consumed by constant battles with memories. Relationships feel different too. You stop attracting what mirrors your wounds, and you start attracting what reflects your healing. Opportunities appear, not because they weren't there before, but because you finally have the clarity and courage to see them. The emotional freedom that comes from release cannot be overstated. It is the feeling of walking through life without a shadow, constantly pulling at your steps. It is the calm that settles into your chest when you no longer fight battles that ended long ago. It is the deep, steady realization that peace is not something fragile. It is something resilient, born from your decision to honor yourself above all else. And once you experience that kind of peace, you understand that no attachment, no matter how familiar, is worth sacrificing it again. You are not abandoning your past when you let go. You are honoring it by allowing it to remain where it belongs, behind you. You carry forward the lessons, the growth, the strength, but you no longer carry the weight. And in that choice, you step into the most powerful truth of all. You were never meant to be defined by what you've had to release. You were meant to be defined by the courage it took to release it. The fear that keeps you holding on is built on a single lie. The belief that without what you're clinging to, you will not be enough. But pause and consider how untrue that is. You are still here. Even after the storms you thought would break you, you are still breathing, even after the endings you thought you couldn't survive. That is proof that you have always been enough, with or without what you lost. What you fear losing is not your wholeness. It is the comfort of the familiar. And comfort is not the same as fulfillment. Comfort is temporary. Fulfillment is lasting. To reach fulfillment, you must be willing to walk away from comfort that no longer nurtures you. The mind resists change because it equates uncertainty with danger. It floods you with doubt, making you imagine the worst possible outcomes. It convinces you that if you release, you will be empty, abandoned, left with nothing. But neuroscience tells a different story. The brain is adaptable. It rewires itself when faced with new realities. This means that the emptiness you fear is not a permanent void. It is a space your mind will learn to fill with new meaning, new connections, new sources of peace. What feels unbearable today becomes natural tomorrow, once you've allowed yourself to experience it. Holding on drains more than just your emotions. It steals your creativity, your focus, your vitality. It leaves you existing instead of living. But letting go restores energy. It allows your nervous system to relax, your body to heal, your spirit to expand. Suddenly, the strength you thought was gone returns. The inspiration you thought had left you flows again. You are reminded that life is not just about surviving, it is about creating, building, and becoming. When you release what no longer belongs, you also release the version of yourself that was built only to endure. That version was necessary to get you here, but it is not who you are meant to remain. You are not meant to stay in survival mode forever. You are meant to step into growth, into abundance, into a life that reflects your worth. And that shift begins with one choice, the choice to unclench your fists and trust that what falls away was never meant to define you. The emotional freedom of this choice feels like a quiet awakening. You begin to notice that your worth is not tied to who stayed or who left. Your value is not measured by the roles you once played or the stories you once told yourself. Your value is intrinsic, unchanging, undeniable, and once you anchor into that truth, letting go no longer feels like loss, it feels like alignment. Alignment with who you truly are, and alignment with the future that has been waiting for you to step into it. This is the essence of inner peace, to no longer be at war with yourself, to no longer chain your identity to what is already behind you. Peace comes when you stop fighting to hold what was never meant to stay, and instead embrace the infinite possibility of what comes next. That is not weakness, that is wisdom. And wisdom will carry you farther than fear ever could. Peace does not arrive the moment everything in your life feels perfect. Peace arrives the moment you stop demanding that the past return to make you whole. The weight you carry is not the event itself, but the refusal to release it. You suffer not because endings happened, but because you resist what those endings are trying to teach you. The lesson is simple yet powerful. Nothing you let go of was ever meant to define your worth. Your value is not tied to who chose you, who left, or what you no longer have. Your value is inherent, and no amount of loss can erase it. Psychologists speak of the negativity bias, the brain's tendency to fixate on pain more than joy. This is why you replay old conversations, dwell on betrayals, and carry resentment like armor. Your brain is trying to protect you by keeping the memory alive, but in doing so, it traps you in cycles that steal your present. Freedom begins when you understand that you no longer need to be protected from what is already over. The danger is gone. The memory is not reality. The chain exists only in your thoughts, and thoughts can be changed. When you shift your focus from what was taken to what remains, the grip of the past begins to loosen. Letting go is not erasing, it is integrating. It is taking the wisdom and leaving the wound. It is allowing the lesson to stay while the pain dissolves. And when you choose to integrate instead of resist, something powerful happens. You stop being a prisoner of your history and start being the author of your future. The same mind that once kept you bound can become the same mind that sets you free. This is the essence of neuroplasticity. Your brain can be rewired to choose peace over pain, growth over fear, clarity over chaos. Imagine how different your days feel when your energy is no longer consumed by what is gone. You begin to notice possibility everywhere because your attention is finally free. You feel lighter in your body because stress is no longer locked inside your muscles. You experience moments of stillness where your breath feels deeper and your heart feels calm because you are no longer running from what you cannot change. Life opens again, not because the world changed, but because you did. The reward is greater than relief. It is empowerment. You realize that no matter what happens, you are capable of healing, you are capable of releasing, you are capable of choosing peace. That realization alone is enough to change everything, because it gives you back your power. You stop fearing endings, because you know they do not break you, they shape you. You stop fearing emptiness, because you understand it is the birthplace of new beginnings. And you stop fearing the unknown, because you know your strength will always rise to meet it. This is the transformation waiting inside you now. The moment you release, you step into a new identity, not a victim of the past, but a creator of the future, not a prisoner of attachment, but a vessel of freedom, not someone defined by loss, but someone defined by resilience. And once you embrace that identity, nothing can take it from you. The past cannot chain you. The future cannot scare you. You stand whole, free, and unshakably at peace. The moment you realize you are not chained to your past is the moment you begin to feel the true depth of freedom. That realization does not come with a sudden burst of perfection, but with a quiet shift inside your heart. You begin to see that peace is not something others give to you. It is something you decide to claim for yourself. You are no longer waiting for apologies that may never come. You are no longer waiting for closure from those who have already walked away. You are no longer waiting for life to rewind and fix what has already ended. You give yourself permission to move forward, and in that choice, you unlock a power that no one can take from you. Psychology teaches that closure is often a myth. What we truly seek is not closure, but control. We want explanations, we want reasons, we want everything to make sense before we release. But life does not always offer clean endings, and people do not always give the answers we think we deserve. Waiting for closure becomes another chain, another way of postponing your peace. The truth is that closure comes the moment you decide the story is finished, not when someone else provides it for you. You are the author, and the pen has always been in your hands. This choice to release without perfect answers is where growth accelerates. It demands trust, not in others, not in circumstances, but in yourself. Trust that you can walk forward without knowing every detail. Trust that your worth is not diminished by someone else's inability to see it. Trust that even if the ending was messy, your future can still be clear. This trust rewires the brain, reducing fear responses and building resilience. It transforms uncertainty into opportunity because the unknown is no longer something to fear, but something to explore. Imagine the lightness of no longer needing explanations to set you free. Imagine how much energy you reclaim when you stop replaying conversations, stop analyzing motives, stop waiting for answers that may never come. That energy becomes fuel for your growth, your dreams, your peace. It is energy you can now invest in building the life you deserve, rather than reliving the life you have already outgrown. The emotional reward of this shift is immense. Instead of living in the past, you become present. Instead of chasing control, you embrace freedom. Instead of defining yourself by unanswered questions, you define yourself by undeniable strength. And this shift ripples outward into every area of your life. Your relationships become healthier because you no longer accept what dishonors your peace. Your goals become clearer because your focus is no longer clouded by what you cannot change. Your spirit becomes calmer because you no longer resist the flow of life, you move with it. Letting go without needing closure is not weakness, it is mastery. It is the recognition that your peace is too valuable to be held hostage by someone else's silence. It is the choice to rise above the chaos, to stand firmly in your own truth, and to build your future from a place of strength rather than pain. That is how you step into a life that feels free, grounded, and whole, a life where you are no longer defined by what left, but by the courage it took to let it go. When you no longer depend on closure to free you, you step into a deeper truth. You are the one who decides when your heart is ready for peace. That decision is an act of self-respect, a declaration that your well-being is not negotiable. You stop giving power to people who are no longer present in your life. You stop handing your future to situations that have already ended. Instead, you anchor into the reality that your worth, your peace, and your joy are yours to create and protect. That awareness transforms pain into power because you finally see that nothing outside of you has the authority to determine the state of your soul. The mind, however, will resist. It will cling to what is gone, replaying stories and creating illusions of what if. This is the survival instinct at work, a protective mechanism that equates familiarity with safety. But safety built on suffering is not safety at all. It is imprisonment. Real safety is born from alignment, living in a way that honors your values, your needs, and your growth. When you choose to let go, you may feel discomfort at first, because the brain craves what is familiar. Yet with each passing day, as you redirect your focus toward peace, your brain learns a new pattern. Slowly, the discomfort fades, and in its place arises a steady calm that feels like home. Letting go is not a single act, it is a practice. It is the daily decision to release resentment when it creeps in, to redirect your focus when your mind wanders to the past, to choose presence when old stories tempt you to revisit pain. Each time you make that choice, you are training your brain, building resilience, and strengthening the part of you that longs for freedom. Just as muscles grow through repeated action, your capacity for peace grows stronger with each practice of release, and one day, what once felt impossible becomes your new normal. The reward is a life that feels lighter. You begin to wake without heaviness pressing on your chest. You notice moments of joy where before there was only numbness. You feel more connected to yourself because your energy is no longer tied to what is gone. Relationships become more authentic because you approach them without the hidden weight of unhealed attachments. Opportunities feel clearer because your mind is no longer clouded by what you cannot change. Psychology calls this post-traumatic growth, a phenomenon where individuals emerge from struggle not only healed, but stronger, wiser, and more purposeful. What you once thought would break you becomes the very foundation of your transformation. The loss does not define you, but the way you rise from it does. And that rise is not a sudden leap. It is built moment by moment, choice by choice, as you practice release and step into freedom. This is the essence of reclaiming your power. You no longer wait for permission to move forward. You no longer tie your healing to someone else's actions. You no longer confuse attachment with love. Instead, you choose alignment, peace, and self-respect. And from that place, you create a life that reflects the truth of who you are, resilient, unshakable, and worthy of a future brighter than anything you've left behind. True freedom begins when you no longer see letting go as a loss, but as an opening. What you once called emptiness is not a void to be feared. It is sacred space, a place for new beginnings to emerge. When you release the weight of what no longer serves you, you create room for something greater than you ever imagined. Your hands cannot receive new gifts if they are clenched tightly around what is gone. Your heart cannot feel true love if it is still holding on to someone who could not honor it. Your mind cannot see possibility if it is clouded by yesterday's story. Release is not about weakness. It is about making yourself available for life's higher offerings. The fear of emptiness is one of the deepest obstacles to letting go. The human brain is wired to avoid uncertainty, to cling to what feels known even if it hurts. But what feels familiar is not always what is best for you. Clinging to the past gives the illusion of security, while in reality it drains your vitality, your joy, and your courage. True security is born when you trust yourself enough to face the unknown, when you recognize that no matter what comes, you have the strength to meet it. This shift rewires fear into faith, transforming uncertainty into opportunity. Every time you release something that no longer aligns with who you are becoming, you strengthen that faith. You prove to yourself that your worth is not dependent on anyone or anything outside of you. You discover that your identity is not built on what you hold, but on who you are. This is how confidence is born. Not from perfection, not from control, but from the lived experience of knowing you can let go and still rise. Confidence grows when you realize that endings are not the end of you. They are the beginning of a new chapter written in your strength, and the reward for this shift is extraordinary. You begin to experience peace not as a fleeting moment, but as a steady state. You find joy in the simplest things, because your heart is no longer distracted by longing for what is gone. You connect with others more authentically because you are no longer approaching relationships from a place of lack, but from a place of wholeness. Opportunities begin to reveal themselves because your energy is no longer stuck in the past, it is fully present in the now. Research shows that people who master the art of letting go experience greater emotional well-being, deeper resilience, and even physical health benefits. Stress hormones decline, the nervous system stabilizes, and the immune system strengthens. Letting go is not only an emotional act, it is a physiological transformation. Your entire body begins to align with peace. You feel lighter, healthier, more alive. The very cells of your being respond to the decision to release. This is why letting go is not a small step, but a radical act of self-love. It is a declaration that you will no longer carry what was never meant to define you. It is the courage to face emptiness and see it not as loss, but as possibility. It is the wisdom to recognize that by releasing what weighs you down, you rise into who you were always meant to be. This is the path of true inner peace, and it is available to you the moment you choose to let go. The beauty of releasing what no longer serves you is that it awakens a deeper clarity about who you are and what you truly want. When your heart is no longer tangled in the weight of old attachments, you can finally hear your own voice again. That inner voice, often drowned out by noise and memory, begins to rise with strength and conviction. It tells you that your life was never meant to be a cycle of repeating pain. It reminds you that you were born to grow, to expand, to live with freedom. The more you let go, the more this voice becomes clear, guiding you toward choices that align with your soul instead of your fears. This clarity is powerful because it strips away illusion. So often we stay tied to people or situations not because they nurture us, but because they are familiar. Familiarity is seductive. It convinces you that staying is safer than leaving, even when staying costs you your peace. But clarity dissolves this illusion. It shows you the truth, that peace is the highest form of safety, and anything that demands you sacrifice it is not worth holding. This shift in perception is liberating. It allows you to see relationships for what they are, not for what you wish them to be. It allows you to see endings not as failures but as natural parts of growth. From this clarity emerges strength. You begin to notice how much courage it takes to walk away from what no longer honors you. That strength is not loud or dramatic, it is steady and unshakable. It is the strength of someone who knows their worth, who values their inner calm more than external approval. And the more you choose peace, the stronger this inner power grows. This is not about being cold or detached, it is about being deeply connected to yourself, so connected that you no longer allow anything to pull you out of alignment. And with strength comes expansion. You start to see new opportunities where before there was only fear. You find yourself drawn toward people who uplift you, environments that inspire you, and dreams that once felt out of reach. This is not by accident. Energy is magnetic. When you release what is heavy, your energy shifts, and that shift attracts new possibilities into your life. You are no longer weighed down by old patterns, so you naturally rise to a higher frequency. This is why letting go feels like rebirth, because in many ways it is. The rewards extend beyond the emotional. Your body feels lighter, your mind clearer, your spirit calmer. Science shows that unresolved emotional weight can manifest physically, through stress, tension, and even illness. When you release, you are not only healing your heart, but your entire being. Your nervous system relaxes, your sleep deepens, your focus sharpens. You begin to experience life, not as a constant struggle, but as a flowing current that carries you forward with ease. Letting go, then, is not only about leaving behind what hurts. It is about stepping fully into who you are meant to be. It is the decision to stop shrinking to fit old patterns and start expanding into your fullest potential. It is the courage to choose peace over familiarity, clarity over confusion, freedom over fear. And when you live from this place, you no longer chase peace. You embody it. You become a living example of strength, resilience, and inner power. You become proof that it is not what you lose that defines you, but what you choose to release that sets you free. When you begin to live with this kind of clarity, you discover that peace is not passive, it is powerful. It does not mean avoiding challenges or pretending that pain never happened. It means facing life as it is, without resistance, and responding from a place of wisdom instead of reaction. This is where true strength reveals itself. Anyone can cling, anyone can fight, but it takes profound courage to release and still remain open. That courage reshapes not only your heart, but the way you see the world. You start to understand that peace is not the absence of storms, but the ability to remain steady while they pass. This steadiness becomes your foundation. Instead of being tossed around by every disappointment, you learn to anchor yourself in values that cannot be shaken. Your sense of worth no longer wavers when people misunderstand you, reject you, or leave. Your inner calm no longer collapses when life takes an unexpected turn, because you know that none of these things define you. What defines you is your ability to choose again and again to stand firm in your peace. The storms may come, but they no longer own you. You have reclaimed your authority. Psychologists call this emotional regulation, the ability to manage your internal state regardless of external chaos. It is one of the strongest predictors of long-term well-being, and the path to mastering it begins with release. By letting go of attachments that once controlled you, you strengthen the part of your brain responsible for resilience. You train your nervous system to return to calm more quickly after stress. You stop giving external circumstances the power to dictate your happiness. This is not suppression, it is transformation. You are not ignoring your emotions, you are choosing to master them. And mastery creates freedom. Imagine walking through your days without being consumed by old wounds, without being triggered by the same patterns, without replaying the same stories that once held you captive. Imagine responding to life with clarity instead of fear, with calm instead of chaos. That is what letting go makes possible. It frees you from being a prisoner of your reactions and turns you into the conscious creator of your reality. The emotional reward is profound. You no longer live in constant defense mode, waiting for the next disappointment to strike. Instead, you carry a deep trust in yourself, a knowing that whatever comes, you will meet it with strength. This trust creates confidence, not the fragile kind built on circumstances, but the unshakable kind built on inner alignment. And when you live with that confidence, everything changes. Relationships become healthier because you no longer cling out of fear. You connect out of love. Goals become clearer because your mind is no longer clouded by what you cannot control. Life becomes richer because you are finally living from your center instead of your wounds. This is the power of release. It transforms you from reactive to intentional, from restless to grounded, from fragile to resilient, and the deeper you embrace this truth, the more unshakable you become. Because you realize that peace is not something you find outside yourself. It is something you cultivate within, and once it is rooted in you, nothing and no one can take it away. The moment you realize that peace is something you cultivate within, you begin to see that everything you once feared losing cannot truly take anything away from you. People may leave, situations may collapse, plans may fail, but none of these can touch the essence of who you are. Your worth was never tied to the outcome. Your value was never defined by whether someone stayed or walked away. What remains untouched is your inner self, the part of you that is whole regardless of circumstances. This truth is the anchor that keeps you steady, and when you hold to it, you become unshakable in a world that constantly shifts. The human mind often confuses attachment with love, but they are not the same. Attachment clings out of fear, fear of being alone, fear of not being enough, fear of emptiness. Love, in its pure form, is freedom. It does not bind or control. It supports growth, honors truth, and allows space for transformation. When you let go of unhealthy attachments, you do not lose love. You make space for real love to find you. You learn to recognize that what once hurt you was not proof of your inadequacy, but a reflection of misalignment. And when you choose alignment over attachment, you free yourself to experience love in its highest form. Psychology shows that this shift from attachment to autonomy builds resilience and emotional maturity. It is the process of self-differentiation, where you learn to maintain your sense of self even while connected to others. This means you no longer collapse when someone withdraws affection. You no longer compromise your values to be accepted. You no longer abandon yourself for the illusion of belonging. Instead, you stand whole, rooted in your truth, and from that place you create connections that are healthier, deeper, and more authentic. The reward is liberation. You begin to feel a calm confidence in your own presence, no longer rushing to fill silence with noise or emptiness with distractions. You find contentment in simply being, knowing that your worth is not up for negotiation, and from that contentment flows a deeper joy, joy that is not dependent on circumstances but born from alignment with your own essence. This joy becomes magnetic, drawing opportunities and relationships that reflect the peace you have cultivated within. Every time you choose to release what does not honor you, you affirm your commitment to yourself. You affirm that your well-being matters, your peace matters, your growth matters. And this affirmation reshapes your life. You no longer settle for half-hearted connections. You no longer tolerate environments that drain you. You no longer chase what was never meant for you. Instead, you rise into a life that reflects your truth, your strength, and your potential. This is the power of letting go. It is not an ending, but a beginning. It is the clearing of space for love that is true, peace that is steady, and growth that is limitless. It is the recognition that what you release was never meant to define you, but what you embrace now has the power to transform you. And the more you practice, the more you realize that you are never losing. You are always making room for something greater. The deeper you walk into this path of release, the more you see that life itself is a cycle of holding and letting go. Every breath is a reminder. You inhale, you receive, you fill yourself with what nourishes. You exhale, you release, you let go of what no longer serves you. Imagine if you refused to exhale, your body would suffocate. In the same way, your soul suffocates when you refuse to release what has already run its course. Letting go is not rejection of life. It is participation in its natural rhythm. It is trusting that just as your lungs know when to let go, your heart also knows when it is time to release. This rhythm is written into every part of existence. Seasons change, leaves fall, rivers flow forward, never backward. The universe itself teaches you that nothing is meant to stay the same forever. Yet, as humans, we resist this truth. We cling to permanence, believing stability will give us safety. But real stability comes not from holding tightly to what must go, but from trusting yourself to adapt, to flow, to grow with change instead of against it. This trust is what builds true resilience, the kind of strength that does not fear loss because it knows life will always bring renewal. Your mind might whisper that letting go means losing part of yourself, but the opposite is true. You do not lose yourself when you release, you find yourself. You find a part of you that was buried beneath attachments, beneath expectations, beneath the weight of old stories. That part of you is pure, whole, and free. And the more you connect with it, the less you need from the outside world to feel complete. You discover that peace was never something you had to chase. It was always within, waiting for you to create the space to feel it. This is why surrender is so powerful. Surrender is not defeat. It is not weakness. It is acceptance. It is the recognition that you no longer need to fight battles that drain you. It is the willingness to release what you cannot control and focus on what you can, your mindset, your choices, your response. Psychology calls this locus of control, the awareness that you cannot dictate what happens outside, but you have absolute power over what happens within. And once you shift your focus there, you stop living as a victim of circumstance and start living as a creator of your own peace. The reward is liberation from constant struggle. You stop resisting reality, and in that surrender, you find strength you never knew you had. Your mind grows quieter. Your heart feels lighter. Your body begins to relax into a state of calm that feels natural, not forced. And from that state, you make better decisions.